I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Brian Wilson.
And joining us now on the line is Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, former member of Congress.
I bet he's packing heat.
I bet he is, and you would be well advised to know that. U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel, retired, and he's the author of a new book called Guardian of the Republic. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, thank you for joining us this morning.
Well, good to be with you, Brian and Larry, and yes, I do have a concealed weapons license.
Well, great. Now, if you could come to the D.C. and you'd be legal today.
I know, it's a great thing. I know Richard Heller personally, and, just a great thing that he got started so that the people in Washington, D.C. and the district don't have their Second Amendment rights squashed.
Well, we'll see how it plays out, but at least today, that is the law. Hey, listen, I want to start by talking about the situation with down on the border, immigration. Mm-hmm. We continue to have this influx of unaccompanied minors. We understand that the President of the United States is contemplating unilateral executive action that would grant de facto amnesty to about 5 million people who are in this country illegally. Your thoughts?
Well, it's very simple. This comes down to the rule of law. In Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, it clearly states that the borders have to be secured. The Founding Fathers talked about repelling invasions. It is also mentioned in Article 1, Section 8 and Article 1, Section 10. So if the President decides to do that, he is in clear violation of the oath that he took as President to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America, which is the basis of our law, which is the basis of this republic. And if we don't have any security of our borders, then we don't have a sovereign nation. So the President of the United States is treading in some very, very dangerous waters, and you see all across the United States, people are really livid about the inaction of this President and the possibility of having this flood of illegal immigrant children all over this country when we're not taking care of American children. Everyone keeps saying they're flooding violence in Central America. What about the violence in our inner cities? Look at Chicago.
Let me ask you this question, though, because some people are saying, well, if the president's not going to follow the rule of law, then we need to impeach him. And, in fact, the White House is saying that they believe that if the president goes forward with this unilateral action, in fact, that will be exactly what happened. A lot of people look at that and say that would probably be the wrong thing to do. Where are you on that discussion?
Well, back some time ago, I wrote up about the unilateral decision of the president to go into negotiation with the terrorist group in releasing the 5 senior members of the Taliban. You cannot release the enemy back to the enemy at a time when the enemy is still fighting against us. He violated the law that he signed in the National Defense Authorization Act that has also provided material support and comfort to the enemy and aiding and abetting the enemy. This week, the House Armed Services Committee will bring up a resolution condemning the president for taking those actions. But I think this is a little bit of a game of chicken being played by the White House, because if you look at a lot of the Democrat fundraising emails, they're throwing out the impeachment word to try to raise money. So I think that you have to be careful of the U-shaped ambush in this. There are other ways that you can bring up what the president is doing, and you can change public opinion on the president so that November becomes a catastrophic election cycle for the Democrats.
So Obama's walking him into a box canyon there. I get what you're saying. Our guest is Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Let's look across the Atlantic for a minute. We talked last half hour about Vladimir Putin, and the news now is that Russia, forget about everything they've done in Crimea and Ukraine and the downing of the jet, Russia has now violated the 30-year-old missile treaty that Ronald Reagan negotiated with Mikhail Gorbachev. We asked our listeners what would Reagan do, but I'd like to ask you, what would Colonel West do if you were in the White House and you were facing off against Putin right now?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't have told President Medvedev that I'll be more flexible after my reelection, because that's a sign of weakness. Yeah, when Chuck Hagel came out on a Monday and announced that we were going to cut our United States Army down 50% pre-World War II levels and get rid of the A-10, on Friday, Vladimir Putin and Russia went across and seized Crimea and then, of course, annexed it. Right now, I would put the missile defense program back into Eastern Europe. I would have military-to-military relationships being built with Poland and the Baltic states, and I would put military assistance, special operations forces in, working with the Ukrainians, and I would provide them more than MREs and socks so that they can stand up against Russia. And I would make it very clear that we support the sovereign state of Ukraine and these other sovereign states, and we're not going to allow Vladimir Putin to do such. And I would probably try to give them some high-quality intelligence assets and counter artillery, counter mortar radar systems so that they can start tracking the firings that are coming over from Russia.
While we're making believe that you're in the White House, which
Yeah.
is something that warms my heart, let me ask you this, because Hillary Clinton is kind of making believe that she's going to run for president, and she said last week that this is really Europe's problem more than America's problem, and you sort of get that sense from Kerry and Obama, too, that they're waiting for Europe to move. Now, you just laid out very clearly what you would do to counteract what Russia's doing. Does it bother you at all that Europe would just sort of stand on the sidelines and let America do that?
Well, we have trained Europe to do that because we provided that shield. And let's be very honest, since World War II, the United States of America has had a leadership role in the world. And that's what people are looking towards. And so that's why a person like Hillary Clinton should not be in the White House, because she does not want to take this leadership role. Maybe she wants to go and give Vladimir Putin another little toy box with a red button on top of it and say, hey, let's play reset again. But that is why we see so many hot spots. I mean, why do we have Japan wanting to rescind a portion of its constitution that says it will have a small self-defense force? They want to have a full-out military because they don't see America as a viable ally against China. So, we need to have someone like a Ronald Reagan that can stand up at a Brandenburg Gate and say, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall, because right now Vladimir Putin is attempting to rebuild it.
A lot of people are looking at the way the administration is trying to assist in the situation in the Mideast, in Israel and Gaza right now, and are thinking that it has not been very helpful. In fact, many people say that the current Secretary of State has been anything but helpful in this. What would you do?
You're absolutely right. He has been an absolute catastrophe, and he has shown his really lack of support to Israel. First of all, why is the United States of America sitting down with Qatar and Turkey, who are two countries that we all know are providing the most financial support and moral support to Islamic terrorist organizations, to include the Islamic State, the ISIS group. Hamas is a terrorist organization. We should have nothing to do with Hamas. As a matter of fact, we should allow Israel to crush Hamas. We should be sitting down with Egypt, with Saudi Arabia, with Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, some of the other Gulf states, Jordan, all of those who understand that this move of radical Islamism in the Middle East has to be crushed. President Obama, I don't understand who he sides with. We have fled Libya because the quote-unquote militia and rebels that we supported have now caused us to get out of Libya because they're Islamists. He supported the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, and now that Joe al-Sisi has gotten rid of the Muslim Brotherhood, he does not want to support Egypt. So we're on the wrong side in the Middle East, and I think it's clearly evident. Israel sees it. All of these other great allies that we used to have see it. And I think that, you're right. Kerry has been worse than helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, not helpful. I mean, he's been catastrophic.
All right, we're going to have to leave it right there. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. You have a great day.